Welcome to shit. Fuck. This week on Feel Good Friday, I forgot what I had to say. This week on Feel Good Friday, a kid's wish that wasn't wasted. Crowdfunding and the gigantic gaps in the healthcare system. The most common date for death. Tell me what you're intuitively thinking about. Can humans see into the future? I got it. I got it all out.
That was weirdly impressive.
Oh my god.
You know what I wish we had? You know what I wish we had? I wish we had teed up right now is the scene from the soundbite from Liar Liar when he gets pulled over by the cop. And the cop's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And he's like, wow, I was being late. Do you have a Liar Liar clip in here?
No, I don't.
Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I know.
It's no, of course. I know that.
Great Jim Carrey flick. Okay, we are just about to hop on a flight to go to Montreal because we're presenting at CanNet, which is like it's like the Canadian Cardiovascular Network, and we're looking forward to it. But because we have a flight really soon, we got to get through this shit, and so right away we're gonna go right in, diving in head first. Do you guys remember what I wished for my kid's wish?
Yes, a shopping spree.
Shopping spree.
Limo to the Halifax,
Yeah.
not even the Halifax, not even the newly renovated
You know what's
Halifax
crazy?
shopping center. We're talking
shithole
Halifax shopping center in
Jared.
2002.
Jared,
Hey man,
Jared, I was having a bit of a down day yesterday. When I woke up in the morning, I was just feeling kind of down.
So was
and
I.
I went on my own Halifax shopping center shopping spree.
Yeah.
I did.
He tried to get me to go with him
You just did that on your own.
I did your children's wish
Fuck.
on
a whim
because I thought it would be fun that day.
So here's
what he actually wanted for his birthday was,
guys, I'm depressed. Okay, I don't need this.
he just wanted to pretend to be a depressed adult with an open Sunday.
Little did I know.
I should have taken a limo to the mall.
Little did I know what my adult life would look like. Well, I will tell you this. I do think about that often. I think about like at that period of time in my life, what would have been a great wish, and actually like one of them for sure would have been to go hang out with one of my heroes, which would have been Adam Sandler at the time.
Go see a Habs game.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that because here's why I wouldn't
have seen a Leafs game.
No, I wouldn't have done that either because my dad had already taken me to a number of Leafs games and somehow got me into their change room. I saw Matt Sundin's cock when I was a kid.
Don't say cock.
Cock.
Dude, it makes me so uncomfortable.
Say because I know you hate it. Matt Sundin, you got a sweet penis.
Wait. Do you think your dad used your cystic fibrosis to get into the Leafs dressing room?
100%. Like 100%. Like we got in there.
Cops playing cards.
We got in there. My dad was like, "Holy fuck, Jared! Look at this. This is fucking crazy." But look, that's Matt Sundin's cock. Holy shit! And then someone goes, "And this is Felix Potvin's mask. And would you like to try it, little boy?" And my dad goes, "Of course I would." And he jumped in and he put it on.
No,
pushed me out of the way. My dad did love the Leafs. Yeah, so anyway, that would have been cool, but I had already done that. But the thing that I didn't even think about was how fucking rad it would have been. I was a massive wrestling fan.
I knew you were going to go there.
And it would have been like to crack a beer with Stone Cold would have been, I mean, totally inappropriate, but also fucking totally on par with the Attitude Era in the WWF back in the 90s. Or getting tombstoned by The Undertaker. I mean, that would have been fucking cool. Well, I'd like to show you an example of a kid who had his fucking head right when he made his decision of what he wanted his wish to be. This is Connor, and Connor's wish was to beat the absolute living fuck out of Triple H. I'm going to play some music here because the music that was on this TikTok is not allowed to be played on YouTube.
This is
so
very
here he is. This is Connor.
music.
This is Triple H. Triple H saying, "What are you going to do? You going to hit me, you little bitch?" Oh! Knocks him the fuck out. Connor is like 7. Look at him. Goes to pin him. Lifts the leg. 1, 2, 3. He's out. Connor's in shock now. Doesn't even know what the fuck just happened. He's like, I just killed my hero. And now he has the whole crowd chanting with him.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
That's the cutest and kind of saddest.
So shout out to Connor. He died.
Oh no.
He died shortly after that. But that little boy Even up in heaven, he will never forget the moment that he legitimately he actually killed Triple H.
Connor
Triple H never woke up from that.
Connor doesn't regret his children's wish.
He doesn't.
No, he does not.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that that meme that's like John Cena goes to the
yeah.
hospital and gives child cancer, gives
I've
gives
seen this, yeah.
what's the phrasing? It makes it seem like John Cena gave him cancer.
Yeah,
for his
John
birthday.
Cena has the world record for the most children's wishes granted.
Yeah, it's just over 500.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So
Bing
like,
chilling.
it's funny because you played that video, but actually there's like 500 kids who have probably done something similar.
I know, dude. I know. Who?
No. They're just going to meet their hero. This is
Right.
This is a
Yeah,
that was
special.
pretty special.
This is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
live
You're right.
on Raw. Live
Yeah.
on Raw.
Yeah. Probably would have been SmackDown. Raw. If that was Raw, they would have took that kid and put him through through a fucking flaming table. Okay.
Triple H
Wait,
would have
what-
gone, not in my house.
I don't know anything about wrestling. What's the difference between Raw and SmackDown?
It's
I
the
don't know,
same,
dude.
it's the same
What's the-
thing. Raw was on Monday nights. SmackDown was
Yeah.
on Friday nights. But
Yeah.
like,
but one was more like
What's the difference
hardcore?
between Feel Good Friday
and a routine
and
checkup
a
on a
routine
Monday
check-in
episode.
on a Monday
Well,
episode?
We're trying to nail it down. Okay.
Well, routine checkups are with
I'd actually say that
professionals.
I would say that we actually have a more dialed lane.
I think we do.
specific lanes than WWE did.
All right, let's move on.
Raw is when it's really raw, and SmackDown is when guys are getting smacked down.
Yeah, that's it. That is
yeah,
it.
he said it.
Let's move on. This this next article has nothing to do with AI, but I took the whole piece of this and ran it through AI. So let's see what it says. It is actually a very interesting story that Taylor, you supplied, and I wanted to save this until you came back on the show. Gigantic gaps in health systems showing up in crowdfunding. Okay, so this is what ChatGPT did with the article. Welcome everyone to another episode of Sick Boy. Today we're diving into an eye-opening issue that's been making headlines and gaining prominence on the GoFundMe platform. Okay, so if you've ever scrolled through GoFundMe, you've likely noticed a staggering number of people are in dire need of help and community support. What's remarkable is that many of these pleas are related to one common theme: the high cost of healthcare. To understand how this shift occurred, we need to take a brief look back in time. When GoFundMe started in, what year do you think GoFundMe started? This actually surprised me.
I'm going to give it.
I would have thought something like that.
Oh, I feel like
He's off, and so was I.
He's off.
Yeah, so there's a clue for you.
All right. Well, obviously it's
More
either
recently.
I would say it's probably more recent. I'm going to say it was post. I remember Kickstarter. We did Kickstarter in 2015. I'm going to say 2016, 2017.
1983.
What?
No, 2010. So it started in 2010. Its focus was on raising funds for ideas and dreams.
Give me your fucking money!
Dude, SVU.
Also, people were
Order.
taking money for like wedding donations and honeymoon registries. That was another big part of
What about pets?
Special occasions was another one. It doesn't say anything about pets, but medical fundraising was just one of many categories that was there, but it was listed way further down the menu. So like you could go there and you could like pick what it was that you don't like just type it in. You have a set standard of things that you're trying to like.
What are you
select.
raising money for?
Yeah, exactly.
And by pets, I meant veterinary bills.
How annoying is
Oh,
it?
interesting.
Not
Okay,
like,
yeah.
not just not like raising money to buy a buy a pet.
Hey,
I thought you were talking about like raising money to add to your backyard breeding setup.
Right? Yeah,
Yo,
not that.
A commonly shared experience among the three of us, I'm sure. I'm imagining this list when they're like, "What are you raising money for?" And there's people that are like that go down the list and they go like, "Fuck, they didn't list the thing that I." Just the way that when you fill out a thing that asks you what your job is,
Yeah,
and it's like it's and
Yeah. What's your job?
podcaster isn't
and
on
it's like
it.
there's no like that nothing in this list of 100 job titles or like but professions speaks to anything about what you do,
How come influencer isn't on the list?
and so you just put other.
Pretty sure I've been somewhere filling out a form and I'm like my job isn't here, and they're like, what's your job? And I'm like,
I don't really know.
I make podcasts, and they're like, no, your actual job, not like what you aspire to be doing.
Yeah, not your hobby.
Yeah, you're like, no.
There was one time I was going through customs. I was like going through the border, and this was like years ago, and the guy goes, "What do you do for a living?" And I was like, "I'm an actor." And he goes, "Were you anything that I would know?" And I went, "No." And he was like, "Okay, go ahead." And I went, "Fuck, I gotta do something with my life." So fast
you didn't
forward.
say Art Zuka?
No, I should have. Yeah. He didn't look like a child.
No.
Fast forward 9 years, and the landscape has radically changed. Healthcare campaigns now dominate the platform. According to GoFundMe, dude, this is wild. According to GoFundMe, of the approximately $5 billion raised on their platform, about a third has been for medical expenses, with over 250,000 medical campaigns initiated each year.
Wow.
250,000 campaigns for meds or medical like reasons.
I can't remember.
Every year.
I can't remember the specific details of the article. But was that 5 billion lifetime like that the platform was raised ever,
Yes.
or was it 5 billion?
Yes, since 2010, they've raised $5 billion.
I mean, it doesn't matter. A third is a third.
Is it?
It's insane.
So, I mean, I'm not sure if this information is there, but I'm guessing that this is mostly for people in the United States raising this money.
Yes.
But
It is-
also there
it is
are,
also in
But
Canada,
it would be everywhere, but like the majority of this is coming from the States.
right. I've seen GoFundMe's for people in Canada raising money
Totally.
for healthcare expenses.
I think a lot of- I think-
I imagine it's greater in
I
the
think.
United States.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things. I would say in Canada, you're getting a lot of campaigns for families that are maybe
Like have to travel
Yeah.
from like province to province or
Yeah.
something, or
Yeah, you got to go because like the specialist that you need to see for the thing that your kid has or that you has is like in Toronto and you're in Northern Ontario.
Or you might
you're
even
in
have
Alberta
someone.
or
You might
whatever.
even have someone who's like doing like long-term chemo and can't work, and so they're like
Yep.
like one of the two of us have completely lost our job. Like we can't work
Yeah.
because of the treatment, and we're looking to like we have 3 kids, and we're just like looking for that
like
kind
the
of support.
peripheral cost
Yeah.
of healthcare versus in the States where it's like,
Yeah. In the States, it's like, I broke my fucking neck and they fixed me. Now I have to pay for it.
and they're
I
like,
was
I
ask-
need the peripheral cost covered, but I also need the actual.
I was asking our friend on the weekend about we were talking about appendectomies, and I was like, if I had my appendix out in the States, like how much do you think it would cost? And he was like, well, it really depends on if you had to stay in the ICU
Yeah.
because of that, like possibly $50,000 to $60,000. If it's just like a day surgery and then you're in a bed for a day to recover, then like still upwards of $10,000.
I saw a thing that that Quadjo posted a few days ago, and it was about like just the kind of like clusterfuck of being able to accurately assess somebody when they enter the hospital. And he was talking about this old woman who was in her like 80s, and she'd had this history of all these things, and she for some reason like ended up in the emergency room for what she needed, but like she should have gone somewhere else.
Mm.
And so because of this barrier with whether maybe it was like a challenge to get her proper records, and they couldn't see her file because of whatever reason, they ended up triaging her in this way that Quadjo was like, then she spent a whole day or like a day and a half going through all this shit that she didn't need to go through as a patient, which cost the hospital $20,000, and none of it was necessary. And it was all because like we couldn't pull up her file correctly and just go, this woman has this history. Okay, skip to step 10.
Which is why we need pre-screening AI bots.
You're probably very right
Maybe.
about that.
Which is why
Maybe you'll see that in the next little bit in Ottawa, perhaps. Who knows?
What Quadjo's getting at.
Anyway, but like this whole thing, the reason that this article jumped out at me was just like a screaming that it's like there is a third of a gigantic fundraising platform that is dedicated to trying to help people just pay for medical costs.
Yeah, which speaks to a massive issue.
But
in healthcare, right? Like that is at the heart of this.
Totally.
This is just showing a glaring problem.
Now this is totally 100% true, and both of these things are true, which is why it's kind of so fucked. So
I was going to say something about fucking handouts. I
No,
guarantee you.
no,
Here we go. Here we go, folks.
what? No.
Get off your lazy asses. All you fucking libtard cucks out here wanting UBI.
Dude, I am
Lazy.
I am left of center. And so we were talking to Alex Dunphy the other day for our podcast with Life Sciences Nova Scotia, New Wave. Go check it out now. And we were talking about healthcare, and they are a medical technology company, and their biggest customer base is in the US. And that's where the biggest market
Right.
is.
That's right.
And they were going, he was saying, what's so crazy about the United States is that, yes, it's horrible that people don't have the access to care like they do in Canada or like they do in a bunch of European countries. However, because the dollars and cents and profit motivation is present in the United States, it's basically where all medical innovation goes to be tested and to thrive. And it happens in the US first, and then it's like the testing ground is in the US, which is where you find all these amazing innovations, because companies, hospital systems are willing to take chances on new technology because it might enhance their profitability or whatever. And so you find that these technologies come out of the States and then they propagate around the world. And that's how you make these wild innovations, a lot of wild technological innovations in healthcare, which I was like, wow, what a horrible catch-22.
Yeah.
That it's like,
Yeah.
you need this horrible system for the person so that on this like global scale, you get these tech advancements.
I
Like,
wonder if it
ugh.
could be both, in the sense that I think of like if the United States all of a sudden changed to a public system, would that then pop up somewhere else in the world? Like, for example,
Maybe.
the United Arab Emirates. And the thing that's great about Dubai is that I had the best healthcare when I lived in Dubai, and it was all private. But everybody has private care. You can't. So one, you can't be a resident in Dubai without having a work visa, and all employers are required to provide.
Depends on who. That depends on who you are and where you're coming from, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
no, but I mean, they all have like.
Right. They have a work visa, but they just don't have access to their passport. No, totally. I get what you're saying.
No, that's a bad thing. Obviously,
yeah.
There's slave labor. Yes, this is another problem. But that's a separate problem to this point. Is that
Yeah.
that all working people in Dubai, which you can't be there unless you're working, have access to private healthcare that's paid for by the companies.
it's definitely
Which
a
is not
place-
possible anywhere else in the
a
world.
place
by
like
the
the UAE is a much better place for that to be occurring, rather than in the United States, where there is a gigantic swath of the population that cannot afford private health insurance to pay for their medical
So
bills.
in the words of Rob Solomon, the CEO of GoFundMe, he says, quote, the system is terrible. It needs to be rethought and retooled. Politicians are failing us. Healthcare companies are failing us. GoFundMe provides relief to many, but it should not be the solution to a complex set of systematic problems. Comprehensive healthcare, according to Solomon, is a right, and it's essential that reforms happen at a local, state, and federal level to make this a reality. So yeah, just some interesting food for thought there, and just everyone's out there trying to
Here comes the money, 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 money.
get that fucking bag, baby. Including the
bills.
politicians and the government. Okay, so let's move on to something that's really interesting. Been thinking about death a lot lately. In particular, been thinking about like what comes after death a lot lately. This doesn't have anything to do with that, but this kind of gave me there's something sort of interesting about this that sort of made me, I don't know, it was scratching that similar itch.
Are you going to talk about interdimensions?
No. There was a study in the UK that revealed how many dimensions. The study in the UK reveals the most common date for people to die.
Whoa.
Mm.
What? Let's guess.
Okay.
New Year's Day.
Ooh.
Okay. Very, very, very good guess.
I was thinking the same thing. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Well, you guys are both wrong.
It's got to be early in the new year, though.
It is, well, while the exact moment of your death, this is also a ChatGPT, right? I don't think this is ChatGPT, but this is straight from Lab Bible. And as I read it, I went, "This is ChatGPT."
Lab Bible.
While the
ChatGPT.
exact moment of your death, dear reader, is ultimately unknown, a study has pinpointed the most statistically likely date for it to be. According to a study from Afterlife Services site Beyond, the most common day to die in the UK is the day after my birthday.
January 6th.
January 6th. And indeed, that post-Christmas period is really
That
fraught with danger.
Now is that a coincidence?
Now it has something, but now
No, it's not.
That's what I thought. It
But-
has something to do with me.
That it is also said to be. Is that the same day that's said to be the most depressing day of the year?
I don't know about that, but I do feel like that. I thought that's like Christmas or like New Year's Day.
No, it's because after like
Oh,
the
after the-
reality of like the
right,
holidays
right.
and that period is done, and then you settle back in, and also
Right.
like in the northern hemisphere where it's wintertime and
Yeah.
dark.
Well, they do say here, since 2005, an average of 1,387 Brits die each day. But the average number of deaths on January
Wow, each day.
1,387 people in the UK die
Wow, that is
on average.
That's wild.
On January 6th, it sits at about 1,732.
That's a significant uptick.
So, in fact, the 10 days you're most likely to die in the UK all fall within an 11-day period. Between the 30th of December and the 9th of January, only the 3rd of January doesn't feature in the top 10 deadliest days of the calendar.
Wow. Is there any? Did they give insight as to why they think that might be?
I mean, I think it's probably pretty hard to really give like accurate insight into that. But they
Yeah.
do say the cold winter weather and
Freezing to death.
the battering immune system can take during that period. It's thought to be one of the contributing factors. Adding credence to this is the day that people are least likely to die is the 30th of July. So
That
the
makes
very
sense.
height of the summer and the
Actually,
warm weather.
That's 2 days before my birthday.
But there are like arguments to be made that
guys. And did you guys know that? Did you guys know that the most average
my
day?
God.
Did you guys know that the most average day to die is October 12th, 2 days after my birthday?
You know,
but I do think there is arguments to be made about the like mental health ramifications of like that period of the year, like the New Year, the Christmas holidays. It's like, it's like, I'm sure if you looked up like suicide rates, there might be some interesting numbers around like that period.
Oh, definitely.
definitely.
Actually, I feel like we've actually covered that before,
And
which is,
cold
but I-
and flu.
but I don't
season.
think that is
No, it's
enough
not
to say that that's like the reason
No, but
that,
when
that
you
number is so much higher.
But something
Contributing
that's
factor.
interesting though
Yes.
is that think about stress in general and
Yeah.
like how much that can impact your overall health
Yeah.
and well-being. So if like it might not be that people are taking their lives at a higher rate on that day necessarily,
but
or,
like
or maybe
they're-
they are, but not in a way that's going to make that much of a difference.
Mhm.
But if it is stress that
Yeah.
just makes you generally feel shittier or decreases your health, and you're already have a bunch of other
Yeah.
comorbidities and things, then it could be.
You know what's interesting
100%.
about
point,
this
Brad.
about going into this dark season that I'm noticing now is Zaya gets up and goes to daycare now, and when Zaya was a baby that before daycare she would sleep until like
Noon.
she would sleep until 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then and when she was really young, she would sleep until like 10. She was like sleeping like crazy. And because of our jobs, because we don't have like morning commitments really,
Mm.
getting up before 8:30 was like pretty rare for me. Now I'm noticing now that I get up at like 6:45, 7 a.m. every day, the sun is not up anymore.
Mhm.
I'm getting up. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what that will be like going into like the first full year in probably a decade of my life that I get up consistently in the dark.
Yeah.
Because as the seasons change and the sunrise changes, I basically just like adapted to the sunrise.
Yeah.
I was
I can-
like, I'll just get up
But
when the
you're
sunrise
just,
is.
just gonna be waking up to this like the whole fucking
I can tell you-
winter.
That is-
I can tell you-
that will be.
It's very nice.
I can tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be this weird sort of innate thing that happens in March where you're going to feel like you have to take a trip to Cuba.
No.
That's what happens.
And that everything has to be included in this trip.
Yeah, everything is included, and
It's an all included.
It is all included, and you're gonna have to leave the kids at home with the parents and just go and unwind.
And
you know?
And do I have to neglect the history and culture of the whole place while I'm there?
Yes, yeah. Complete disregard for it. You're just going.
I
there.
just treat it as if it's my country in their country.
Yeah, and you know it's actually not even that much of a problem because you're self-contained in this little area the entire time that you're there.
Right. So like, I don't even have to pretend like like there's anybody to meet or anything else to see or do.
Yeah, and really it's just
Hey guys,
it's just your loss.
Guys,
It's just your loss,
come
but
on.
it's fine.
Yeah. All inclusives have their place. Okay, they can be very fun.
And I will say, affordable.
Yeah.
And you're much more likely to avoid.
Dude, I don't know. I think you're more likely to. I think it's more likely.
But hey, but for real, all inclusives. Every once in a while, they can be a fucking.
Guys, we
they can
should
be
go.
They can be a hoot.
Guys, we should go on one this year.
Dude, yeah, it'd be
just
fun.
for like a 4
Think about
day.
how fun that is.
Well, if it's
You
just
get,
us,
you basically are just being babysat.
it would not. It would be.
I can't drink all the time though. Like
You can
we
do it
take,
for 3 days.
Can we take other drugs?
You can probably find them. Yeah.
Dude, totally. Lots of cocaine, lots of meth.
I don't need that. I don't want cocaine or
Then what the
meth.
fuck do you want?
Mushrooms and Molly.
It would be a nightmare though going to an all inclusive with Maddie and just having to like Maddie doesn't drink and I wouldn't drink with her, just her, and also just like laying on the beach all day.
Dude, I do hate laying
Dude,
on the
I
beach all
hate.
day.
I can't.
I hate.
Me
laying
But
on
yo,
the beach.
when you got the pig skin, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, who brought the
Yeah.
pig skin?
Yeah.
I'm going to the beach,
Yeah.
baby.
Dude, pigskin disc.
A grill.
Hell yeah.
Holy
Hell
fuck.
yeah, dude.
God, sick. Fuck
Man,
yeah.
I miss summer.
Fuck, dude, let's go to Cuba.
Let's move on to some intrusive thoughts.
Please.
Do you guys have intrusive thoughts?
Move on to intrusive thoughts. I've
Not
been
uh,
having them the entire time.
not as many. I remember having quite a few in my younger years. I don't notice them quite as often anymore.
But you've had them.
Yeah.
Like, what would be an example of one that
I have
you've
one.
had?
I remember
have one all the time.
specifically. I remember specifically as a kid. I don't know. Let's say between like 8 and 15, maybe somewhere in that range. I remember going and sitting in the upper bowl at the Metro Center, which is like the big hockey arena in Halifax, and looking up at the rafters, like above where the big clock, like the center clock is, scoreboard, and looking at the rafters and going, man, it'd be crazy to like just like climb up there and then like, holy shit, then if I just fell off those rafters and just hit the ice.
I would think of that.
I would have that thought and then I'd go, huh. And then
Did you think of falling off or jumping off?
jumping off.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And,
Here's,
then I go, huh. All right, I guess I'll go keep watching the game then.
here's one. Are you guys afraid of driving across the bridge?
No.
No, but I've had that thought as well.
You should
Driving
be.
off the bridge?
You should be afraid of driving across the bridge.
Do you know
Because
how fucking,
every time
do you know
I drive
how hard
across
it would
the
be
bridge-
to drive off the
No,
bridge?
no,
It would be
no.
extremely hard.
You need
No.
to ramp.
Guys.
There would need to be
Guys.
there need to be an 18-wheeler that
Guys.
hauls cars
Yeah.
with its bed down.
Needs
and
to
then
be
you need to
a
ramp
GTA
off like
moment.
GTA.
Guys, you don't need to be afraid of going off the bridge. You need to be afraid of the drivers in the other lane who are thinking about possibly just steering their cars into your lane.
No one's gonna do that.
I think of it though.
Well, someone might
Yeah,
do that.
but it's intrusive. That's intrusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
It
real.
is.
So
It is.
so I think kind of the foundation of an intrusive thought is something that you actually for sure don't need to tell other people to be worried about. I think that's kind of the basis of it.
I don't think so. I think intrusive thoughts can be. I mean, so like an intrusive. I have an intrusive thought. I actually have this like quite a bit, and I actually fucking hate it because it happens. I let it go, and then and then like I let it evolve, and then it gets to a point where I go, oh, whoa, oh fuck, why am I doing this? Mine is, and this I know I can pinpoint the exact moment that this intrusive thought seed was planted, and now every once in a while, like I water it. Donut was a puppy, and we were on the sidewalk, and he was like, I don't know, sniffing something or taking a shit or something. And he was like kind of close to the road, but not that close. And I had full control over him. He was a puppy. I had him on his leash. And a bus drove by. This is on Gottingen. which is a street in Halifax. A bus drove by, and the bus is like, dude, in the bus lane, the bus is like
They're like 2 inches
millimeters from
the
the curb.
Yeah.
And it just like, and it was going full speed, and it went, and I went, oh my God, if Donut was like a foot and a half that way, he would have been
Dude, hereditary.
mushed. He would have just been completely squished. And
Oh,
now
no.
I constantly, not constantly, but like maybe like once a month, I'll have this thought when I'm walking Donut on the road of just like Donut running out just like skirting out into the road and getting completely fucking
Sure.
run over. And then my mind goes, and then if he didn't die on the impact, he would probably be like yelping and like and
Oh,
trying to like
no,
get
no,
up, but he
no,
can't
no.
because he's all broke. Like that's where my fucking brain goes.
No.
And then I get like really sick, and I go, what the fuck? Why did I just do that? Like there's no.
You
I
know
get
what?
that. I get that with
ha-
Rupert outside.
So I think
too.
that also is an intrusive thought, but that's not an intrusive thought of me picking Donut up over my head and throwing him into an oncoming
right,
bus.
Yeah.
Now I've never had that thought,
But you're
but
having
now
it-
that I just said
now
it,
you're having it
I'm
now.
having it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I
is
don't
that?
know. I don't know how to garden, so I can't water those seeds.
Yeah.
It's impossible. For
Well,
me.
Wait, I have a
intrusive
question for you.
thoughts-
Is that an
yeah.
intrusive thought though?
Yeah.
Like the
I think
the
so.
idea of thinking of that happening to Donut, or is it more of like you doing something and being in control of the
An
thing?
intrusive thought is an unwelcome, involuntary thought, image, or unpleasant idea that may become an obsession, is upsetting or distressing, and can feel difficult to manage or eliminate. So it's not intrusive thoughts aren't necessarily thoughts of like, I had this thought of taking a knife and stabbing my wife to death. That's an intrusive thought, but it's not just that. It's not just things of like, I had a thought of me committing something that is awful to think about. It's just the thought of awfulness. I mean,
well,
I
with-
feel like
with
if
yours,
you,
you're going. With yours, you're going. I'm afraid
Yes.
that I will let go of Donut.
or I'm afraid that Donut, like, I've even had the thought of like, here's another intrusive thought that is completely removed. When I see some numbskull, and I'll say it, I'm sorry, I think it's fucking dumb. I don't think it's safe. I don't care how old your dog is or how well trained your dog is. When I see some fucking ding dong in a city walking their dog
I hate that.
off a leash,
Yeah.
look, it's a fucking dog. Like, yes, 100% dogs can be trained to fucking be that good, but I would never risk it. Let's say the dog sees a leaf and like Donut loves leaves. And so, right. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting fucking caught up on my own intrusive thought, but I would see somebody walk their dog and I would have the exact same thought that I would have of the Donut thing that I just told
Sure,
you,
yeah.
but of that person's dog.
Yeah.
And that person's dog just going, oh, like time to cross the road at the wrong time and gets hit.
It actually it does drive me nuts.
Right?
When
Yeah,
I
me
see
too.
people
So like,
doing
so
that with
again,
dogs.
intrusive thought. But here's the thing: intrusive thoughts are actually a lot more ordinary than you think. I think some people have intrusive thoughts, and some intrusive thoughts can be like so bad that you most certainly never will share that with anyone because perhaps there could be ramifications with that. You know what I mean? I think we've actually talked about it with Jody Carrington. We had a little discussion with her once when she was here at the studio about, you know, the idea of intrusive thoughts, especially intrusive thoughts with like new parents, right?
I mean, again, I can totally see how we might not want to go into that, but I actually found that conversation like extremely valuable to signal to parents out there that like this is not you being a bad person.
Yeah.
Do we want to?
No.
Like,
I mean,
do you want to
well,
say it?
maybe we'll keep that for like a conversation with Jody. I don't want to get off track, but
Sure.
basically, people have intrusive thoughts. The ones that we just shared, I feel like you could easily kind of grasp, like, oh yeah, I'm sure everybody has that. But then
Yeah.
there's some of those intrusive thoughts where someone might go, "There's no fucking way anybody else has this," and I think I might be sick, perhaps. Like maybe I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
That's likely not the case. Your brain is thinking such thoughts because you don't want to act that way. And for some reason, it just happens to think of the most inappropriate thing that it can imagine. As to what causes this phenomena is the main reason they think is anxiety or stress, according to Harvard Health. So some biological factors
Hold
may
on.
also
The main
play a
reason
part.
why you're having the thought.
Yeah, the main reason why you tend to engage in intrusive thoughts has to do with anxiety or stress. So some biological factors may also play a part. For example, women who have just given birth may have more intrusive thoughts than usual because of the hormonal changes that they're going through.
Wow.
While you may think the best thing to do is try to push down your intrusive thoughts, this might make it stick around for longer and happen more frequently. Hannah Reese, clinical and research fellow at psychology at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School, wrote for Psychology Today, quote, "The very act of monitoring your thoughts for the absence of a thought can make it occur more frequently. When someone becomes very distressed by their intrusive thought, goes into great lengths to get rid of them and prevent them from occurring, this can become a form of OCD. People with this bad thoughts form of OCD often avoid things that could trigger these thoughts or being in situations where they might be at risk for acting on a thought." So like, for example, I would like stop walking down the road.
We spoke with somebody who wrote a book that was.
That's right.
I'm totally blanking on his name now. It was like something about being a dad.
Yeah, the ADD dad.
ADD dad. Yes.
I believe it was Jeff, maybe. So what should we do then about these thoughts about kicking our next door neighbor's a puppy or?
Does it say that?
Yeah.
You kick.
I was thinking about another one. I was just trying to think of another one in my head, but we won't go there. Harvard Health has you covered. And the medical team advises that firstly, you identify the thought. Dr. Carrie Ann Williams, lecturer in psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, says to simply think to yourself, that's just an intrusive thought. It's not how I think. It's not what I believe. And it's not what I want to do. Unless you do want to do it.
I have a question, guys.
Should start using that for my road rage.
What do you
thought process?
What do you think the
have road
difference is, or do you think that these things are very closely connected? The idea that I live in a dog-friendly apartment building, and there are people in my
There's so
apartment
many
building.
dogs to kick in his apartment.
There's so
It's
many, and
crazy.
every time I get in the elevator, I'm like, which one? It's like a buffet of dogs to kick.
Yeah.
But
It's a great way to put it.
when I get in the elevator, there's like a handful of people who live in my building who are afraid of dogs.
Yeah.
Which anyway is a thing.
Brian loves
But-
it because Brian has a poorly trained dog and he just sicks them on these people.
Yeah, my dog just goes crazy.
Rupert will give somebody a heart attack.
Dude, 100%. Rupert started humping the Uber Eats driver the other day, who
did.
also
He
very
did actually
clearly,
kinda
He almost
from a
died.
cultural
He almost did
perspective,
that.
is very afraid of dogs.
He almost
And Brian's
almost
just like,
had a stroke.
Brian's just like, Rupee, don't worry. He's not going to bite you. He's just trying to fuck you. Poor guy.
Rupert's actually really good in the elevator because he knows that he has to sit the entire time. And so, but the interesting thing. Okay,
Sit
so
on
here's a
someone's
question.
face. Am I right?
Yeah, dog.
No. The question that I have is so somebody who has like a fear of dogs or a phobia that is I don't want to use the I'm not speaking specifically to fears or phobias, but in a situation where somebody has what would appear to be an irrational reaction to something like that.
Mhm.
What is the difference between that being an intrusive thought where they like are thinking of like the worst thing that dog could possibly do
They're not
to them in that
having a
moment?
They're not. I don't think they're thinking.
They're
that.
just react. They're just
So-
having a
Yeah,
reaction.
they're just having.
So
I mean,
what
remember
is-
the pickles lady?
What
Those
are
are
they having?
those are different things. Reactions and thoughts are different things.
So what do you think what are they thinking in this situation when they have that reaction?
I don't think they're thinking. I think they're reacting. I think they're having a nervous system. They're having a central nervous system response
Yeah.
Why is that?
because of either it's a mixture of an unknown. So that there's just an I don't know what's happening because I don't have any experience with this dog, or it is not a recalled memory, but what's the opposite of recall memory? Like not something that you can actually recall and like remember,
subconscious?
but like a subconscious recall of an experience. Like if they've been bit by a dog, then like their nervous system is saying
Mhm.
run because this happened to you before and it's about to happen to you.
There's
Here's
no
an-
thoughts.
here's
There's no
another
thoughts
here's another
behind it.
example
Yeah.
that is more in line with what I was thinking of. So like a parent on a playground who's like overprotective, thinks that their kid is going to fall or
I think
you know,
that's
get hurt.
also a central nervous system
Is that
thing.
is that and that's not an intrusive thought.
No, I think that's
No, an
a
intrusive thought would be that parent laying in bed thinking about their kid being snatched up at
Yeah.
the playground.
I
But
think
you
it's the exact same as the dog thing where they go, I either don't have any experience,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think everything is bad is going to happen, or my reaction is that it's going to be horrible, or I had a bad experience, and now that colors all my future experience.
Okay.
Either way, all normal.
It's actually called, like, from in the philosophical realm, it's called avidya, which is in Hinduism, and it's basically it's a sign. It's one of like a handful of signals that signal that you are not seeing reality clearly. That there is you are misperceiving
Your reality is not the shared
you're misperceiving
reality.
the objective reality, and you can't just. And so it's called the veil of misperception. So you have this like thin veil in front of your eyes that's making reality distorted through your vision. But you can't actually see the veil because it's too close to your eyes. So you
Which
need
basically,
to,
I mean,
need to look
basically
for-
that is currently what's happening in the world with the UAP phenomenon, right? Like everybody has the veil in front of their eyes except for me.
So
I've lifted my
just to
veil.
clarify, just to clarify, because I think this is interesting, and I've never thought of it this way. The parent on the playground who is like ultra overprotective isn't actively thinking that something bad is going to happen. They just have this like feeling of like wanting to be protective for some reason. That is probably not actually
but
tied to like
it could be a
them
mix.
really thinking that something bad is going to happen.
It could be a mix. It could be that reaction part, but it also could be an intrusive thought that they had one time.
Yeah.
And now when they go to the playground, the intrusive thought comes up again. And then they become like super like hyper vigilant in their nervous system because that thought is maybe on repeat in their head while their kid is playing, and they're just waiting anxiously for the worst thing to happen.
So they're not thinking about like my kid is actually going to fall. They're thinking my parents didn't love me or protect me as a kid.
And then spiral
therefore
out.
now I wanna-
Again, it's like
maybe.
you keep saying they are thinking. I don't think thinking is a part of it. They are
reacting.
Yeah,
to
I mean, it's a subconscious thinking. They're not actively thinking my kid's going to fall and hurt themselves. They're just reacting.
That's actually
to-
it's helpful for me to think about that because
I don't think you're thinking a thought.
I
think you're just reacting.
I'm thinking a lot of different things. It's helpful for me to understand it that way because, you know, like from my experience in going to therapy, I think about a lot of the ways that the past affects me, but I've never thought that the overprotective parent, like I've always been like, oh, well, like surely they should be able to see that like that kid is not going to, like if they fall from the monkey bars, they're not going to fucking break their hip and die.
I don't want to stay on this too much longer because I
No,
know we need to
definitely
move on.
gotta
But I
move.
do want to say that I think a lot of it's even funny to use the word I think in this explanation, but I think a lot of things that we think about as being thoughts that we're having are really most of the time just nervous system dysregulation where we are in fight or flight when we should be resting, or we're resting when we should be in fight or flight, and we're just not in the right zones a lot. And there's a whole bunch of factors for why that is. But like if you wear a Whoop strap or you wear a Garmin watch or something, it gives you a stress. It gives you a stress score, and what that stress score is actually like the reason that gives you a score or how it gives you a score is it is reading your heart rate variability throughout the day. And so when you have low heart rate variability, in comparison to your baseline, so you establish a baseline, when it's lower, it means that you are spending less time in the nervous system
Dysregulation.
response that is required for what you're doing. So when you're sitting and you're watching shit, it knows you're sitting, it can tell that you're not moving, you're sitting still. So it's going, you should be
Chill.
you should be chill right now.
No stress.
But
Yeah.
you're not. And so we're giving you a high stress score for that. When you start exercising, it actually turns off that feature because it goes, well, this isn't useful
stressing
information
yourself. Yeah.
because you're actively good stressing yourself, you're exercising. So we're not measuring you there because you're doing what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
So like the more time you spend, it's really stress is just a measurement of how much time you are not spending in the correct nervous system response. And then that has a crazy downstream effect on how you do everything in your life.
I think this was in a recent podcast I was listening to with Ezra Klein in it as a guest, and he was talking about how
with the on search engine,
yeah,
such a good episode.
he was talking about how I think this episode he was talking about how our experiences through our lives is just an amalgamation of all of the stories that we tell ourselves, and that was like really profound for me because to your point, it's like we have these thoughts, and then that creates our reality. But like a lot of the thoughts are informed by things that we don't even know where they come from. Yet that creates our entire perception of the experience that we're living on this earth.
Yeah.
Like everything comes from,
Which is where mindfulness comes in, because when you have a reaction to a thing, if you can go, let's take a beat and just notice, where is that coming from? Why do I think that way? Just for a second, even if it's subconscious, just to create that like little bit of a buffer.
Yeah.
That's probably like, that's probably most of the improvement that you need to make.
I'll say to that is I think I totally agree with you. I think that mindfulness is what I get through therapy.
Sure,
Like that's
yeah.
the thing that like I find is that ability to like step back and go, oh, this is where this is coming from, which gives me an appreciation for the fact that like a lot of other people can have that sort of step back perspective from doing things like yoga.
Yeah. I mean, mindfulness essentially is probably it's like the root core thing, you know, put it in whatever word you want to, but that's probably the base core thing that everybody on earth needs an abundance of.
All right, let's move on to speaking of the way we perceive the world. This kind of blows my mind. All right. Dr. Daryl J. Bem. He was born in 1938. He is a social psychologist and professor emeritus at Cornell University. Smart guy. Been around for a while. Still alive. There is a really controversial study that he took part in 2000. I think it was 2011, 2010. That sort of shook the world of psychological study, completely uprooted it.
This makes a lot of sense considering he probably was coming into this practice when MK Ultra was happening.
Well, actually, Brian, it's really funny that you say that because this doesn't actually have anything to do with MK Ultra,
but it informed his experience.
But it most certainly has something to do with. I mean, it's tangentially connected to a CIA project that is very similar to MK Ultra, which is the Stargate project. So MK Ultra, dosing people with LSD. Stargate was a project where the CIA tried to investigate whether or not psychics could like
remote view.
Yep. But actually, listen, this is fucking wild. So in the past decade, one of the most controversial scientific studies was the 2011 paper by American psychologist Dr. Daryl Bem. He presented a radical idea that precognition, the ability to foresee future events, is a genuine phenomenon, sparking ongoing debates and soul-searching among psychologists. This concept challenged mainstream science and supported parapsychology, particularly phenomena collectively known as psi, which includes precognition, telepathy, clairvoyance, and remote viewing.
Have you guys both seen Men Who Stare at Goats?
No.
Men Who Stare at Goats is about Project Stargate. Yeah, exactly. So Bem's paper, titled Feeling the Future, Experimental Evidence for Anomalous Retroactive Influences on Cognition and Affect, reported on 9 experiments involving over 1,000 participants. 8 of these experiments appeared to demonstrate that a person's responses could be influenced by events occurring after the responses were recorded, which suggested support for precognition. So the experiments took various approaches. For instance, some involved participants guessing the location of a hidden image behind curtains on a computer screen, while others focused on word recall tasks. These experiments seem to show that individuals could perform better than random guessing or recall when influenced by future events. So one of the studies that I thought to be the most interesting out of this experiment that he did was he would have people sit on a computer, and they would have like basically 2 buttons, or they would have like
two pills, a red pill and a blue pill.
They would have 2 words that they would have to associate with an image, right? So let's use the example of they would show an image of a kitten, and the 2 words would be like ugly or cute, right? So the first part of the test was they ran this through everybody, and what they did was before the words came up for them to choose a word to associate with the image, there was like it was like, you know, like 0.003 of a second, they would flash one of the two words in front of the screen, and it would flash at such a rate that your eyes wouldn't actually be able to pick up what it is. Subconsciously, you'd be able to pick it up, but like in the moment, you wouldn't even see it. And they would do this before the person would choose the word. So let's say that they flashed what they found was when they flashed the word ugly on the screen before the person chose the word, they would choose the word cute at a slight slower pace than they would if the word cute flashed. Right. So
like reality, everybody thinks it's cute.
Right. Exactly. Like everybody, you're going to pick cute unless you're trolling the system.
Sure.
So you're going to pick cute. And so if they flash cute, sort of subliminal messaging,
choose it fast.
You would choose it faster. If they flashed ugly, you choose cute slower. And that was they did that as the part of the study, and they repeated that, and they were like, okay, it's very clear that like with this subliminal messaging beforehand, everybody chooses cute, or the high
slightly slower
and slightly faster. So then he did the exact same thing, but instead of flashing before they chose the word,
rate this podcast 5 stars.
They flashed it. They flashed it after they chose the word, and the exact same effect. It had the exact same effect as them seeing the word before it flashed. So like this was one of several different experiments that they did.
Interesting.
But here's the interesting part. So obviously the results of this are fucking ridiculous, right?
This is not part of Stargate. This is like
no, this
research.
is not. This is not part of Stargate.
This is the
at all.
2011.
This
study.
is a study in 2011 that this Dr. Daryl Bem, who's a very he's been around for a long time. He's like come up with like social psychology theories that like still stand today. So he puts this out there and he goes, guys, look, like I think I've been able to show that precognition is possible. And so what's more, skeptical psychologists who have pored over a preprint of the paper say that they can't find any significant flaws. Quote, my personal view is that this is ridiculous and it cannot be true, says Joachim Kruger of Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, who has blogged about the work on Psychology Today. He said, quote, going after the methodology and the experimental design is the first line of attack. But frankly, I didn't see anything. Everything seems to be in good order. So here's the wild part. Some studies claim to replicate Bem's findings. Bem's team conducted a meta-analysis in 2015, so 4 years later, including 90 experiments from 33 different labs involving 12,406 participants.
Wow.
And they argued that the results provided decisive evidence for the existence of ESP or precognition.
What's really funny about just the reaction part is how, I mean, I get it. Like science, that actually should be in science. The gut reaction is that something is wrong. Is that it's wrong?
That is the base of science.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it should be.
But just the words that he chose, which was going, I can't find any flaws, but in my being, it's wrong.
So
it's like the LK99 stuff. Like so much of like the science appeared to be really sound from the early perspectives on it, and then
but people just couldn't replicate it.
Yeah, but like also people like there was a strong gut reaction to the scientific community that was like, nah,
Fuck
it's just
that.
not possible.
Yeah.
This is not gonna
but if they had been able to replicate it, it would have definitely changed the discourse surrounding that, right? But there was like 2 or 3 teams that were like, we actually couldn't replicate this exact thing, and so it seemed like it lost steam.
But I wonder if that was because there was so much publicity around. Like there's not a lot of publicity around relative to LK99.
So there's a big incentive to replicate.
Apparently, so there was a lot of publicity around this, specifically in the world of psychology, because my point in sharing this, I mean, part of my point in sharing this is the wildness of this study and the wild claims that there are. But the real point of sharing this is what ended up occurring after this study came out. Because again, when I say that Dr. Bem is like a legit guy, he is touted as like, he's very much looked up to in the world of psychology.
Or he was.
No, I mean, still to this day, like this didn't fucking ruin him at all. And what this actually did was this shifted the standards of research in psychology. This literally complete upheaval of the standards of research in psychology. So,
Does
nevertheless,
that sound like the psychology community is like, okay, like this might all be above board in terms of like meeting all of the requirements for studies, but like this is not a result that we expect is possible or true. So like we have to increase the standards.
yeah. So nevertheless, the scientific community remained divided on the issue, with some believing that experimenter bias and other parapsychological factors could affect the results. Bem acknowledged the intense reactions to his research, stating that it forced psychologists to reconsider their views on the physical world and research practices. He maintained his belief in psi, but suggested that methods in the field needed improvement. Cognitive neuroscience professor Chris Chambers, one of Bem's critics, and there were many, called the conclusion of the paper ridiculous, and yet this is really quote, "This is really interesting because if a paper like this that's doing everything normally and properly can end up producing a ridiculous conclusion, then how many other papers that use those exact same methods that didn't reach ridiculous conclusions are similarly flawed?"
Wow.
So he's
That's
going,
wild.
He's going, okay, this is fucking ridiculous. I'm going to choose I mean, I'm putting words in his mouth here, but I'm assuming that he was going, I'm going to choose to not believe that this is possible in any realm of possibility. I don't think this is actually true. It's ridiculous. But he's done everything right. And it seems like it's hard to find any holes in the research. So if that's the case, then how many times in psychological research have we done it right, done it by the books, and come up to a conclusion that makes sense, but in reality, maybe it's not actually the sense because this is so fucking crazy that
It's like playing Sudoku. It's like you make a bunch of moves and your moves seem to make sense. Like you've laid down the rules. You've laid down the rules being the foundation, being the first couple moves that you made. They seem to make sense.
Yeah.
Subsequent moves make sense. And then all of a sudden you come to a place where you go, wait, this doesn't make sense. Where did I make my mistake in the past that made me believe that everything that I've done up until now was correct, but actually it was false?
So wait till you hear this.
But it's almost crazier than that too, in the sense that like, imagine you got to the end of the puzzle and you filled it out totally correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, actually, even though you have all the numbers in the right place, you lost.
It's like the game actually doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Ben's paper, this paper that he made, triggered a broader call for replication in psychology, leading to a project involving 270 scientists from 17 countries who attempted to replicate 100 studies from 2008. So completely separate from his study. They just tried to replicate 100 studies from 2008. Shockingly, only 36% of the replications achieved the same result as the original studies. This highlighted concerns about the credibility of psychological research. To address these issues, new standards for psychology research were introduced. Researchers began using pre-registration, outlining their study methods for hypotheses before conducting experiments to prevent data manipulation and premature reporting of positive results.
That won't do anything though, because people can see into the future.
Additionally, many scientific journals now publish registered reports that determine whether studies will be accepted or rejected based on methodology rather than the sensationalizationism of results. In conclusion, Bem's research challenged the scientific community with its claims of precognition and psi phenomena. However, these claims have not significantly impacted the consensus in the scientific community, and further rigorous and replicable research is needed to establish the validity of such extraordinary claims.
Okay, we got to get out of here because we got to catch a flight. But the last thing that I will say on that is what's actually very interesting about this, and for possibly the last time, I'll reference Peter Attia's book, Outlive.
Unlikely.
What that book does really well is highlights how when you are trying to scientifically test something experimentally that has to do with people, if you're fucking with chemicals and shit, that's actually way simpler. When you're trying to do like population-based studies to find out if something is fundamentally true and you're trying to do it through using people, designing a study in which something can be super effective and accurate is like one of the hardest things to do in the world. And like, and borderline impossible. And in something less ethereal than psychology. So like something like nutrition. It's like finding out whether something is nutritionally true is almost impossible. And then if you bring that into the realm of psychology, it's no surprise that that is probably one of the hardest things to do to successfully experiment with.
That was one of the things that even the critics were talking about Bem's study. Was they were talking about the way that he crafted these like several experiments, to which all of them were producing this like result of like, it seems like precognition could be possible. They were all saying they're all, I mean, they're structured almost as perfectly as can be for a study, because it's next to impossible to like fudge the numbers, next to impossible to fuck up. Like and they're so simple. Yeah, interesting stuff. So I guess, the thing, I mean, I think it's really interesting that this like completely re-altered the way that psychology approaches the ideas of studies in general. There, to the precognition part, it's funny to me that something as wild as that, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. It's like that would change, that would have fundamentally changed the way that we view the world and our existence. But what if it was true? Like, what if it was true? All of a sudden you see this thing that's replicable and there and fucking wild. Like, to me, it's the unscientific thing is to go, well, it's impossible. So there's no way that it's true.
Well, you need people on both sides.
You do need people on both sides, but the impossible part is, I mean, we should, no matter where you stand, you should always, even if you were a skeptic, you should always reserve a sliver of you that goes, there's a possibility that maybe.
I disagree. I disagree, because I think if you have a skeptic that retains that, or at least you need some skeptics that don't have any of that, because they are the ones that are going to approach it without the I think that thought can introduce a what's the type of bias that
I suppose, but
yeah,
then let
like
me ask you this: at what point
sure.
does that person change their tune? Right?
I mean, after a scientific consensus is reached. I mean, but it's just like the actual real world. It's just like the real world of conspiracy theories and things like that, where it's like there's just a swath of the group of people that are analyzing this that never accept something as true.
To be fair, there's also a lot of evidence that this is not true. So it's not like it's just like the experiment has a result and then it's like, okay, well, that now changes my mind, because there is a lot of evidence that we can't see into the future just by how we carry ourselves on a day-to-day basis.
Let's have this. Honestly, guys, let's have this conversation in the car episode on the way to the airport.
Okay, that is it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support. If you want to support further, leave a rating or review on Apple Podcast, or hit the follow button. All those fucking buttons. Just press all the buttons. Leave all the stars. Leave all the words. And join us on Discord. You can find the link to the Discord in all of the show notes. And we'd love to have you over there. Lots of fun discussions. Mel's still up there posting her fucking wordles. God bless her. So we love you.
I love Mel.
If you want to be a guest on the show, go to sickboypodcast.com.
Thanks as always to the folks who helped make this show happen. Shout out to our new production assistant, Annika, to Donovan, to Rich, to the music from Take Part, and to Jeff Lonis, our manager. We love you all.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy. And this is Sick Boy.